Throughout the Friday the 13th film series, Jason Voorhees is portrayed as an enduring and seemingly supernatural force, but the extent of his powers and abilities sort of varies from one film to the next. So in today's video we will be looking at various examples from the entire Friday the 13th franchise, including Jason X and Freddy vs. Jason, to try and determine what powers and abilities Jason actually possesses. Some of these may surprise you, so let's get into it. Now, at the time of creating this video, Jason has appeared in 12 movies. Friday the 13th 1 through 8, then Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason, and then the 2009 standalone reboot, Friday the 13th. Throughout most of the main series, Jason's powers seem to get more and more, well, powerful. We literally go from this to this. So I have gone through each and every movie and pulled out what I would consider to be essentially superpowers or abilities. I've managed to come up with 9 different ones. Some are pretty insane. Let's take a look. Undying resilience. In the first Friday the 13th, Jason's apparent drowning as a child and subsequent return as an adult sets the stage for his unkillable reputation. Despite the fact that the first 2 movies to feature Jason sort of have a reputation for him being more natural than supernatural, people forget that he already appears as an essentially resurrected being at the end of the original movie. So every time we see Jason from that point onwards, he could already be considered undead. In Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason lives. He's resurrected from the dead after being struck by lightning, emphasizing his enduring nature. From this point onwards, he seems practically unkillable. Speaking of which, Immortality. In Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday, we are introduced to the concept of Jason's immortality. His heart is shown to be the source of his evil, and even when blown apart, it can possess others and regenerate his body. Which you could definitely argue means that he is truly immortal. Even if you destroy his body, he will continue on. Superhuman Strength. Throughout the series, Jason displays superhuman strength by effortlessly lifting and using heavy weapons like machetes and axes. But it goes much further than this. He can throw fully grown men across a room with minimal effort. He can punch straight through a human chest, fist coming out the other side. He can punch a person's head clean off. He can squeeze a head so hard that the eyes pop out of the skull. All stuff that just equals more insanely gruesome and creative Friday the 13th kills, but all acts that require far greater than human strength, meaning that this is definitely a superpower. Invulnerability. In Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, Jason is resurrected and shown as being essentially immune to physical harm. He is hit with various objects, including a party horn and a television set, but remains completely unfazed. In Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason survives being submerged in toxic waste, further emphasizing his resistance to harm. Now, these are obviously just a couple of random examples, but you can look at any movie, even the earlier ones, and see how much damage Jason can take. Meaning not only is he immortal, but he's completely invulnerable to pain and affecting damage. Stealth and tracking. Jason's ability to track his prey is evident throughout most of the movies in the series. Not only can he track them, he can do so in the dark. When everyone else runs, he walks at a relatively brisk pace. That's impressive. He also can stalk and track whilst remaining extremely stealthy. Again, impressive for such a large man. Regeneration. In Jason Lives, Jason's body is shown healing rapidly from injuries, again emphasizing some form of regeneration. This one technically can go in line with invulnerability, but it's definitely a separate power. Not only is he invulnerable to pain, but when damage is actually afflicted, it heals rapidly. Undying devotion. In the same film, Jason Lives, it's suggested that Jason's connection to his mother and her tombstone may play a role in his supernatural abilities. There's not a great deal about this, but it's certainly theorized that it's essentially the source of his power. I don't know if I'm on board with it, but I thought it was worth including nonetheless. Resurrection. Again, in Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason is resurrected by a bolt of lightning striking his corpse in the cemetery. This is also another event that could be the cause for a lot of his super abilities, as it's seemingly from this point onwards that his powers begin to get extremely exaggerated from what came before. Teleportation. Now, this one is a bit silly, but it's also probably one of the most talked about of Jason's abilities. In Jason Takes Manhattan, as well as multiple moments in other movies, Jason appears in various locations without any explanation of how he got there, suggesting some degree of teleportation. Now, you could argue that this ability is something that every horror villain essentially has, as it's a trope that provides jump scares, but the Friday the 13th movies seem to take this to a whole new level. And this certainly may not count, but according to the Death Battle wiki, Jason has teleported in an officially licensed game, Mortal Kombat X, Whether or not you want to take that as canon is up to you. Now, with all of these insane powers listed, does Jason actually have any weaknesses? Well, you could say that his intelligence is potentially a weakness. Throughout most of the movies, the ways he seemed to lose always come down to his potential victims outwitting him. His soft spot for his mother could also be considered a weakness, having been manipulated on multiple occasions by people using his mother. Jason's weird shrine to his mother is evidence that they had a very special bond. Freddy uses this bond to his advantage, pretending to be Jason's mother in his dreams in order to wake Jason up to slaughter on his behalf. Then there is water. Now, you may be aware that Freddy vs. Jason showed Jason's biggest fear to be water. Freddy realizes after he brings Jason back from hell to terrorize and kill that Jason is running wild and needs to be better controlled. Thus, Freddy ends up probing Jason's brain to find out what he feared the most. What Freddy discovers is that Jason's traumatic childhood drowning created a fear of water. This fear of water allows Freddy to essentially control Jason. However, this one just isn't true. Again, on multiple occasions we have seen Jason enter the water by his own free will, clearly not fearing it. So this one has always bugged me. And I have seen in some interviews where the movie writers have tried to defend this and say something like it was a fear that Freddy created or something like that, but it just doesn't come off that way at all in the movie. So if you ask me, plot hole. But it's shown as a fear, so I'm listing it as a weakness. And that's pretty much it. It's important to note that Friday the 13th as a series is not really known for strict continuity, and the portrayal of Jason's abilities varies from film to film. In some entries, he is depicted as a more grounded, physically powerful human, while in others, he leans more heavily into the supernatural. The franchise has of course evolved over time, incorporating different elements to suit the narrative of each installment, making Jason Voorhees one of the most enduring and adaptable horror icons in cinema history. But I want you guys to let me know in the comments down below, which version of Jason do you prefer most? Do you like seeing him more grounded and closer to a human being? Or do you love it when it goes supernatural? He's just an undead, absolutely unstoppable killer. Let's talk about that in the comments down below. As always guys, hit that like and subscribe button, it really helps out the channel. As such a new channel, we could really use the support. Thank you all so much for watching, don't forget to lock your doors and bolt your windows, and I'll see you next time on Dead Scared.